Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf Yomi. Zevachim Samach Zayin. We begin right after the Mishnah here, so it's 10 lines off the top. Tanya Amar Loi, Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Yeshua. This relates back to the Mishnah, where we had this raging debate between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Yeshua was the one who told us a great chiddush, that if one takes an oila sa'oif, an oila bird, which is meant to be processed at the upper half of that corner on the mizbeach, and he processes it downstairs, like the chata sa'oif, which is meant to be processed on the lower half of that corner of the mizbeach. And as he's doing this to the oila, he says, I'm doing this for l'shem chatas, as though it's a chat. He's sort of relabeling it to a chatas. So since it was processed akin to a chatas, in terms of location, in terms of intention, says Rabbi Yeshua, this bird will now lose its me'ilah status. Typically, if one takes an oila and diverts it for personal use, he has committed me'ilah, with all its consequences. Not so by a processed chatas, because that's meant for the kaihanim, and there's no me'ilah now. Likewise, the oila which was processed in a chatas manner gets sort of relabeled as a chatas, assumes status like a chatas, and is now me'ilah free. So says Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Eliezer disagrees, and he continues on in the Bryce. He says, I'll support my position from a mashal. Let's draw an analogy. Let's shift to animal karbanos. Asham, he takes a karban asham, whose shchita is meant to take place where? In the tzafain side of the asar. Okay, shishchata b'tzafain, did the shchita in tzafain properly. However, l'shem shlamim, he had in mind a karban shlam. Now, karban shlamim, afterwards, processed, loses me'ilah. So you would think that the asham, which was processed like a shlamim, will now be me'ilah free. Yochech, that'll prove my case that it's not so. Sheshina Shmoy, despite the fact that he switched its designation, he relabeled it as a shlamim, umay alambay. Me'ilah still applied to the asham. Likewise, in our case, of the relabeled bird. Vav atal tisma, you too, don't wonder. Don't be surprised. Regarding the oila bird, although he relabeled it, renamed it as a chata, still me'ilah will still be active on the shimalaba. Amali Rabbi Yeshua, says Rabbi Yeshua in reply. Lo, how can you compare our case to your case? Lo, certainly no comparison. Im amras ba'asham. Of course, it makes sense that by the asham, this doesn't work. Shem shina shmoy. Just because he switched its designation, changed its name, but that was it. There was no other diversion. Lishinas mekayma, he didn't switch its location. It was meant for tzafain. It was done in tzafain. Tamer ba'oila, as opposed to our oila bird, which was diverted twofold. Name and location. Shina Shema, Vishinas Mekayma. It makes sense that it now assumes somewhat of a chatas status and is me'ilah free. Amal Rabbi Eliezer. Says Rabbi Eliezer in response. Okay, I'll bring you another analogy from a double diverted karban. Asham sheshchata b'darim l'shem shlam. Take an asham. He did the shchita in darim, wrong place, for the sake of shlam. That will prove my case. Here, there was a double diversion. Sheshina Shemoy, Vishinas Mekayim, switched its name and its location. The me'ilah is still applicable. Af ata al tisma. Likewise, don't be surprised by the oila bird, ala oila, which experienced a double deviation. Shava b'Sheshina Shema, Vishinas Mekayim, switched its label and its location. Me'ilah is still applied. Amal B'Yeshua. Says B'Yeshua in response. No, but we're speaking about a triple diversion. You don't have that by the animals. No, you can't compare our birds to your animals. Im amras ba'asham, sheshina shmoy, vishinas mekayim, just because by the asham, where there was a double diversion, name and location, but there was no triple diversion. L'shinas masa, there was no different type of physical act, physical processing done differently. as opposed to the bird, Tomer ba'oila, Sheshina Shma, it experienced a triple diversion. Its name, its location, and also the type of process. Because he took it downstairs, right? And he did a malika. As soon as he gets past that first malika, that first siman, right? The chata soif requires a partial malika versus the oila soif, which requires a full malika through both simanim. Here he only did one. So you have a change in terms of name, location, and ma'aseh. Sheshina shma, be'es ma'aseh, v'shinas makayma. Of course, it makes sense that it is now relabeled and assumes status like a chatas. Amar Rava. Okay, why couldn't Rabbi Lezer bring a similar, example from the animal karbanis, which experienced a triple diversion? V'nei malei. Why can't he respond as follows? I will prove my position from an asham. Sheshchata b'darim. Okay, so darim is wrong location. L'shem shlamim, for the sake of shlamim. Wrong name. B'shini bailim. And he had the wrong owner in mind. And Rashi says that's considered like the wrong process, the wrong maaseh. So here you have an example of a triple diversion. Sheshina shmoy, name. V'shinas mekaymi, location. Shinas maaseh. And there's still meal. Why didn't he use that as a counter, claim? The fact that he failed to present this as a counter argument, shmamino, that tells us something. That in fact, Nochis Rabbi Eliezer submitted, so to speak. He understood the time of Rabbi Shua, the true depth of Rabbi Shua's position. He understood that you can't compare these two cases. It wouldn't be a good argument to bring the case of the asham, which was diverted by way of its name, its owner. It would now have no relevance or impact on our case of the birds. Why? Nochas Rabbi Eliezer, he understood his reasoning, which is limited to the case of the birds. Why? Because as we explained, it's a different type of malika. And since the Oila Sa'if experienced a chatas malika, different type of malika, that repackages it into a chatas. And that you don't have in your case of the asham, which was diverted by way of owner, name, location. It's not a different type of shchita. And therefore, there's no comparison. He comes to explain. Rabbi Shua's reasoning was as follows. An oila sa'if which was processed on the lower part of the mizbeach, like a chatas, l'shem chatas, for the sake of chatas. Kiven shemalach basiman echad. Once he gets through the first siman, right, the windpipe or the food pipe, it is now considered a chatas, because that is a chatas type malika. So there was a physical manifestation of this chatas process applied to this oila bird, and that turns it into a chatas. It gets drawn into the chatas world. And you don't have that in the case of the asham. And that's why he remained silent. He didn't respond with the asham. He understood where Rabbi Shua was coming from. Asks the Gemara. Well, at this point we understand that literally becomes like a chatas. It is kosher to be used as a chatas, because it was processed like a chatas in all different, aspects. If that's the case, chatas oif nami, why can't we apply the same process in reverse? Just as an oila sa'if can now be transformed and converted into a chatas sa'if because it was processed as such. Why can't the same be done in reverse? Likewise, take a chatas sa'if, and if he does it upstairs in a oila sa'if manner, having in mind an oila, perhaps it should turn into an oila. Chatas sa'if nami she'asalamal. He did it upstairs. Kemas oila michi malak ba siman echt. Once he does one siman, which is the malika sufficient for a chatas, which this bird requires, doesn't require more. So once it gets through that simon, in the oila location, having the oila in mind, let it turn into an oila sa'if. Perhaps you'll say, okay, 100%, of course. It's incorrect. Rabbi Yechon tells us, Mishum, the name of Rabbi Beno, Kachi Hatzah Shel Mishnah. That in fact, it's limited to the way we have it in the Mishnah. So the Mishnah's presentation is limited to itself, meaning only an oila can turn into a chatas, not a chatas into oila. V'suloi, there's no other discussion. It wouldn't apply in the reverse. My lab, let's assume what he meant to say is kachi etzah v'suloi. That the discussion in the Mishnah is limited to this and not the oila turning into a chatas. Lo, who says kachi etzah shel kula Mishnah? Perhaps all he meant to say is the same discussion and debate we have regarding turning a chatas into an oila would apply regarding turning an oila into a chatas. Rav Ashi responds and says, no. Of course, it's limited only to the chatas, and to the oila turning into a chatas. So again, before Rav Ashi, the Gemara concludes, perhaps it goes both ways. Just like a oila turns into a chatas can turn into an oila. Right? Because just like when he takes the oil and does it downstairs like a chatas, we say it assumes a chatas status, likewise. He takes a chatas and does it upstairs. The same thing would happen, it turns into an oil. Rav Ashi Amar, no, bishleim el soif, shasalamata. Chatas, I can fully distinguish between the two cases. Certainly an oil that was done downstairs. Kimasa chatas, l'shem chatas. It makes sense that it turns into a chatas. You know why? Because as we explained, the malika for an oila is a full malika versus the malika of a chatas, which is a partial malika. So now when he takes an oila and does it downstairs, as soon as he gets through that partial malika, it is now relabeled as a chatas, because that is a chatas type malika. The ha. Since a chatas bird hechsheder b'siman echad requires one siman, v'ha versus the oila hechsheder b'shnei simanim requires two simanim. V'oila soif lamata lesa, and of course the oila doesn't belong downstairs. So once he takes it downstairs, kivan shemalak b'siman, he does one siman, which is like a chatas type malika. Nimsheches v'nasas chatas. It now turns into a chatas. It walks like a chatas. It looks like a chatas. It talks like a chatas, right? El chatas. But regarding the reverse situation, you want to suggest that a chatas I've done upstairs, presumably with a chatas malika, which is a half, should turn into an oila. Given that we learned that technically malika b'chal makom ksheri can do malika anywhere. So really, malika can happen anywhere. So in terms of location, it wasn't really such a drastic change. And now, you proceed and do the malika. You get through one siman. You have in mind, I want it to be an oila. Boom, it's possible now. Because technically this was a chatas type malika. It wasn't yet. Didn't yet experience anything that's oila related. One siman is merely chatas type malika. Once he does that one siman, which is technically still a chatas type malika, so there's no real visible or physical manifestation to your oila scheme here, to your oila process. It becomes possible because technically it was a chatas type malika with the oila in mind. So even if it proceeds and continues the malika as though it's an oila, it's too late. It failed. It's gone. Even when he continues and proceeds to complete the malika on the second siman like an oila, too late. How do you expect us to get drawn into the oila sa'if world? Is it deficient chatas sa'if? You ruined your chatas. So of course, it wouldn't work this way. in this direction, failed. But only in the other direction. It takes an oilas oif. It does it downstairs with a chatas in mind. So he's packaging it like a chatas, and in fact, when he does that first siman, before he gets to the second siman, that technically is a chatas type malika. So now it assumes the status of a chatas. And in fact, the Gemara at this point figured it's kosher even. And the Gemara is going to ask some kashas on that. Till the Gemara later will conclude, no, we don't mean that's actually a properly processed chatas. It just means to say that it loses the me'ilah status, as we said before. To that extent, it's relabeled like a chatas. Let's see. Let's go back and review. Amar Bada Bar Ava, Amar Rabbi Yeshua. This is Rabbi Yeshua's position. Oila so ifsha salamata. Kemasa chatas. Shem chatas. Right? So if which was processed downstairs, like a chatas, for the sake of chatas, given shemalak was siman echad. Once he gets through that first siman, which is a chatas type malika, nimsheches v'nasis chatas oif, it turns into a chatas, and we assume that it's kosher. Tashma. Here comes some very strong kashas from Mishnahs and Mesachas Kinim. Complicated Mishnahs. In fact, the Farshim there say the most complicated in the whole Shishis Mishnah. Okay, as Hashem will get through it. But the point that is going to be proven from there is that an oil which was mislocated would not turn into a chatas. Tashma, here comes a raya from a story of two women. So they're both obligated to bring a pair of birds, which would come when a woman gives birth or experiences other types of tumah. So typically, you would bring an obligatory pair of birds, one being a chatas bird, one being an oila bird. Okay, that's what the Mishnah calls a cane sipar, pair of birds. Because you have two women here coming together to the Beis Hamikdash. And they approach the kohen. Now, each one happens to only have one bird today. Okay, so we have Rachel with her chatas bird. She already took care of the oila. And Leah with her oila bird. And they pass it on to the kohen to process it appropriately. He's meant to know what to do. Of course, the oila goes, the upper part of the mizbeach, like an oila, a full malika, right? Mitzui, right? No hazah. Whereas the chatas goes below on the bottom part of the mizbeach. Partial malika, right? Hazah, spraying the blood directly from the bird to the mizbeach, and then followed by mitzui. Okay, no diversions, no no changing the locations, no changing types of malika, right? That's the way it's supposed to be done. The kohen, for some reason, got confused. They were overwhelmed by the quantity of karbanis today, and he went and he did it the wrong way. Okay, shatoshma chatas lazu, but oila lazu. Two women. Rachel has a chatas, Leah has an oila. They both gave it to the kohen together. Also, shtein lamala. He mistakenly did both upstairs. So what happens? That's fine for the oila, but not fine for the chatas. Okay, because the blood of the chatas is meant to be applied downstairs. Mechza kosher, mechza pasal. Half is okay, half is not. The oila is fine, the chatas is pasal. She has to rebring the chatas. Shtei lamata. What if he did both downstairs? So now, just the opposite. The chatas is fine, the oila is pasal. Mechza kosher, mechza pasal. Half is okay, half is not. Achas lamala, vachas lamata. He did one upstairs and one downstairs. He can't recall which one he did where. So perhaps he switched them both. Perhaps the oil, instead of upstairs, was done downstairs, which makes it possible, and the chat, instead of downstairs, was applied upstairs, which makes it possible. We have to assume the worst and consider them both to be possible and need to be redone. The Mishnah continues, because I have to concern myself with the chance that chatas kreva lamala, v'oila kreva lamata. The chatas came upstairs, the oila went downstairs. Now the question is fine. It wasn't ideal, but we just finished saying, at least we understood, Rabbi Shua to mean that when you take an oila and do it downstairs, like a chatas, it assumes the status of a chatas. So what's the problem? I understand the oila went downstairs instead of upstairs, but no harm was done. Let it turn into a chatas oif, as you are telling me. Is what happens when you do that. And says the Gemara, yeah, that works when it's the same person. But here you would like the oila of one woman to be applied as credit, as a chatas credit for the other woman. You can't do that. It's not mine, it's hers. Right? So again, we're going back to the case where he did one upstairs, one downstairs. And the concern is perhaps he switched them both. Chatas went upstairs, that's possible. The oil that went downstairs is possible. Why is it possible? Let it turn into a chatas and be applied to Rachel. Let it get credit like a chatas. The answer is it wasn't Rachel's bird. The oil belonged to Leah. Amor. When does Rabbi Yeshua say my oila can turn into a chatas? When it's all one and the same person. So my oila can be converted into a chatas. How could he apply it to? Did he say it by two people? Of course not. Tashmai comes another attempt at a kash on Rabbi Yeshua's principle that an oila bird, if it's done downstairs like a chatas, gets converted into a chatas. Okay, so we continue on to another case in that. And the Mishnah is there. So we have, again, the same two women, Rachel and Leah. Now, in this case, they were supposed to bring as follows. Rachel owed a chatas bird. Okay, we're going to be speaking only about birds throughout this whole discussion. Rachel was meant to bring a chatas bird. Leah, an oila bird, to address some sort of obligation that they have. It so happens that in addition to that single bird that they were meant to bring, Rachel needed to bring another pair of birds, obligatory pair, oila and chatas, and likewise Leah needed another pair of birds, oila and chatas. Okay, so again, Rachel needed a chatas plus a pair of chatas and oila. Leah needed an oila plus another pair of chatas and oila. Total of 6 birds, right? Tashma, chatas was for Rachel, v'oila was for Leah. Ustuma. The next pair, what was stuma? Was not yet labeled. Okay, so the halacha is either the owner would label it, this is chatas, this is oila, or the kohen would do it as he's processing it. It's either way it works. And then there was another a pair of birds, mufareshes, which actually had been labeled. This one chatas, this one oila. It wasn't tagged, but it was labeled. Okay, it was named. So we have a total of 6 birds. One was labeled chatas, the other one oila. Another pair which was unlabeled, as yet unspecified, but will be when the kohen processes it. So it's merely a potential chatas and oila, which have to be identified and actualized and processed as such. We have mufareshes, a pair which was actually labeled. So those already committed. You can't switch them anymore. This one has to be done upstairs, this one downstairs. The kohen took the batch of 6 birds and he messed it up. Also, kula lamala. So let's just stop for a second. How many are oila? How many are chatas? 3 and 3, right? We have Rachel's chatas, Leah's oila. Then we have 2 more pairs, each one being a chatas and oila. So we have a total of 3 oila, which is meant to go upstairs, and 3 chatas downstairs. What did the kohen do? Also, kul lamala, did it all upstairs, thinking they're all oila. So 50% success. Mechza kosher, half of the 6. The 3 oila are okay. Mechza pasal. The other half, the other 3 chatas are pasal. Kula lamata. He decided they're all chatas. He did them all downstairs. Same equation. Mechza kosher, mechza pasal. Half is okay. The chatas are fine, but half the other half are pasal. The oilos are pasal. Chetzin lamala, chetzin lamata. What if he did half and half? He realized that it's a mix. But instead of asking and identifying properly, he just decided, okay, I'm doing 3 upstairs, 3 downstairs. So now we're in real trouble. Perhaps he switched everything around. So the only one that works, the only one that's salvaged, is that pair which was not yet labeled, not yet committed to the cause. The 2 birds which haven't been named. They were pending the kohen's, processing them at his discretion. The only one that's kosher is the stuma. So basically, within that pair, the one that went upstairs now turned into an oila. That's okay. The one that went downstairs turns into a chat. They have to split it between them, the 2 women. Because basically it was meant for both of them as a partnership. So they have to sort of split it between them, and they have to bring more to make up the loss. But this doesn't help the birds which had been labeled, which had been committed to their respective courses. Those are possible. And the question is why. Oh, concerned that the oila was done downstairs, the chatas upstairs. Okay, I understand the chatas upstairs is doomed. But the oila that was processed downstairs like a chatas should now be considered a chatas and salvage that. According to Rabbi Shua's opinion. V'amai, what's the problem? Ni nami, the oila kreva lamat. I understand the oila was done downstairs. Inappropriate. But after the fact, considered a chatas. Timshech v'tahavi chatas oif. Let it be considered a chatas. Perhaps we'll say, this mission is not going like Rabbi Yeshua's chiddush. Look, Rabbi Yeshua, really? Actually, it is. How can you suggest that the Mishnayos and Mesachas Kinim are not consistent with Rabbi Yeshua's opinion? Actually, we're going to see a Mishnah coming up in a second with Rabbi Yeshua himself is speaking in the Mishnah. Clearly, it's reflective of his position. He's the author. Tashma. He comes another raya from another Mishnah. We have a case here where it's going to get very complicated. And ultimately we'll have Rabbi Shua, Rabbi Shua's input. Clearly it's Rabbi Shua speaking, and the question will be why? So why can't the oila turn into a chat? Okay, what's the case? So here we have only one woman, one isha involved. And we have a printout of 7 possible confusions. 7 variations, each one taking us progressively into a more complicated scene, and requiring more birds to be used, as makeup, as compensation for the possibly deficient ones. Okay, here starts the story. We have a woman who's about to give birth, and she says, Hashem, I'm going to donate. I'm going to donate a pair of birds. If I have a boy. So now, Yolda Zach, she had a boy. How many must she bring? Well, the standard pair of birds for any Yeledes, the obligatory pair is a chatas and oila. Plus her vow, her promise. And when you promise a pair of birds, both are oila. When it's an obligatory offering, it's a chatas and oila. When it's a donation, then it's a pair which consists of 2 oila. So now she has to bring 4 birds. A pair of chatas and oila for the leda for that birth. Another pair of 2 oilos on account of her donation. Yolda Zevachim avia shtei kinim, 2 pairs. Achas lanidra, 1 to accommodate her promise. V'achas l'chayvasa, 1 to accommodate her obligation. 4 birds consisting of 3 oila, which are meant to be upstairs, and 1 chatas downstairs. Nesnasan l'kayin. She gave it to the kayin. The kayin haphazardly, irresponsibly processed it at whim. So ideally, a kohen tzarich lasoisan sholish lamala v'achs lamata. The kohen is meant to do 3 upstairs and 1 downstairs. Last again, he didn't do that way. Rather, what did he do? Also, shtayim lamala, shtayim lamata. Not realizing that what it's about. He's thinking these are 2 pairs, standard pairs, of chayva birds, consisting of chatas and oila pairs. So he did, as he thought, 2 upstairs and 2 downstairs, not realizing that, no, these are different. Of these 4 birds, 3 are oila, only 1 is a chatas. Also, shtayim lamala, shtayim lamata. So now, he didn't bother consulting. He didn't bother finding out what's going on. So now she's missing how many? Just 1. Right? Because one of these 3 oila went downstairs. So she has to bring another oila to make up for that one. She must bring 1 more bird and process it upstairs like an oila to make up for the lost oila. But assuming that all 4 birds were of the same type. Potentially you can bring toirim, 1 type of birds, or bnei yain, a different type of birds, which would make it more complicated if she mixed them. In this case, she only brought 1 pair. Okay, so in the first case, first out of 7 cases we're going to discuss now, it only involved 1 type. Let's call it type A, toirim, right? She had to bring all 4 toirim. 1 of them became puzzle, like we explained. She brings another of the same type to make up for the lost one, and she's covered. However, here comes the second case. Umishnei minin. Suppose the 4 that she brought were not all type A. 1 pair was type A, 1 was type B. No, we don't know which one the kohen did first. Now the first one becomes the chayva. First you take care of obligations. And the second one is the donation. We're not sure which one he did first, which would make that the chayva, which one he did second, which would make that the donation, and would tell us which one you have to make up for. We don't know. So to cover all possibilities, she now has to bring 2 make-up birds for that missing oila, type unknown. She has to bring 1 oila of type A, 1 of type B. And the extra one will be like a donation. Tavish time, she must bring 2 more. Okay, let's move on to the next case. Parshanut. This is all good because she hadn't really specified initially when she made that promise what type she'll bring. So either way, she's covered. Here it gets more complicated. Suppose she had specified, she had identified which type she will donate. Anticipating that birth, I'll bring the standard obligatory pair, chatas and oila, right? But I'm also going to bring a donated pair, right? A pair of oila. And at that point, she specified type A or type B. She doesn't remember which one she specified. So now, she actually brought 4 birds of type A, 1 of which became puzzle. So she brings that one again. So 1 bird. Plus, she has to bring another pair of type B, because perhaps she had promised to bring type B. A total of 3 birds. Parashat Nidra, right? She's required to bring 3 more birds. Now that's all good and well if on Sunday, Mimin Echad, it was only 1 type. All 4 were the same type. So she has to make up for that missing oila of this type and 2 additional birds to cover the other type, which perhaps were the ones she had committed herself to bring. Here comes the next case, more complicated. But umishnei minin. If the 4 birds on Sunday were comprised of 2 types, 1 pair type A, 1 pair type B, confusion reigns. Tavi arba, now 3 is not enough. Because again, if it's just 1 type, she knows that she has to bring 1 to make up for that missing bird, and 2 more of the other type, which may have been the ones that she had obligated herself to bring. But if the 4 on Sunday will comprise of 2 types. And as we explained, the first pair is considered the chayva. Only the second pair is the nadava. Now she doesn't know which one was offered first, which one second, which one has to be made up for, in addition to the 2 additional ones of the other type. She doesn't even know what's going on. So basically you have to reset the clock and start over. You have to bring 4 more birds, as though nothing was yet taken care of. Meaning the chayva is good. That's that's taken care of. But the nadava, start from scratch. You committed yourself to a certain type of birds. Type A, type B, you don't know? Okay, you have to bring 2 type A, oila, and 2 type B, oila. But you can stop there. However, here comes case 5, which adds another twist to this complication. How about kava nidra? She had linked the nether with the chayva. So instead of just, okay, I'm going to bring 2 more birds as a donation, she linked it in conjunction with the pair of chayva birds, which consist of oila and chadas. I'm going to sort of expand that oila and add 2 more birds as a donation. But they're sort of going to relate to that oila in the obligatory pack. So now, you can't just come back on Tuesday, okay, I'm going to make up for the missing nadava. If you bring nadava, you have to bring it together with the oila of chayva, which had been brought on Sunday. Too late. It's delinked. The only way would be to rebring that oila as chayva in conjunction with the donation. So, if she knows that on Sunday she brought, type A birds, and she had promised to bring another donation of 2 more birds, and she doesn't remember if I promised type A or type B. So now, she has to bring a pair of type A pair of type B, and rebring the oila of Sunday, which presumably was, a certain type that, was only 1 type on Sunday, so she knows which type. Rebring that bird together with the 4 additional donation birds today. So a total of 5 birds on Tuesday. And do them all upstairs. They're all oila, right? Now, the reason why it's only 5 is because on Sunday it was just 1 type. So on Sunday all the birds were, teirim. So she knows that the oila as chayva was that type. So she rebrings that bird on Tuesday together with the with her donation birds. 5 in total. Here comes another complication. Mishnei minim, what if on Sunday the 4 were consisting of 2 types? 2 birds of type A, 2 birds type B. Now we don't know which one was offered first, which one's second, which one's the chayva, which one's the nadava. Come Tuesday, she wants to take care of the nadava, which she had committed to. Since the type is unknown, she has to bring both variations. She has to bring 2 birds of type A, 2 birds of type B. But as we explained, she linked it with the oila of chayva. That has to be redone today in conjunction with the donated birds. But we don't know the identity of that oila bird on Sunday because there were 2 types there and we don't know which one was chayva, which one's not. She just has to rebring both types. For the oila as chayva, which will open the door and enable her to bring the donations, which are linked to that oila as chayva, right? So that adds another number to the bunch. Mishnei minin, on Sunday, it entails 2 types, which necessitates rebringing that oila today on Tuesday to enable her to bring the nadava. Since we don't know what type it was, tavi sheish, she has to bring 2. She has to redo 2 oilas. Chayva, 1 type A, 1 type B, together with the 4 donated birds, tavi sheish. she has to bring 6 more. But hold it, we're not done. What happens? Case number 7. What happens? This woman donated. She vowed. She promised to bring a pair of oila, certain type. Now she doesn't recall. Can't remember which type. Now, come Sunday, she brought 4 birds, thinking, okay, I'll take care of everything. A pair for chayva, a pair for nadava, and she has no recollection. Were they the same type? Were they different types? The kohen processed it in some way. He doesn't even know. Were they all upstairs, all downstairs, half and half? Confusion. Nasnasan the kohen, she gave it all to the kohen. Ve'eni yadas manasna, she can't recall what she gave on Sunday. Likewise, the kohen is in the same boat. Holach kohen va'asa, he went and proceeded and processed the birds. Ve'eni yadas, he can't recall exactly what he did. All upstairs like an oila, all downstairs like a chatas, half and half. So now, we're even in a more difficult situation. Because perhaps the chatas on Sunday became possible as well. Because imagine if you did everything upstairs, like an oila, the chatas becomes possible. So that adds another complication to the equation. She has to rebring a chatas as well. See, in the previous cases, we know what he did. He did half upstairs, half downstairs. So in terms of the chayva, covered, she's good. It's fine. The oila went upstairs, the chatas downstairs. The whole issue was with the oila of nadava, which apparently was brought downstairs, and that has to be compensated for. You can go take it all the way from 1 to 6 additional birds. But here we have an additional complication, because he doesn't know. Perhaps he did everything upstairs, which will disqualify the chatas bird as well, the chatas of that initial, obligatory pair. So how many does she owe to cover all her issues, to get her settled? This adds another to the pack, the chatas. Tzricha arba preiden l'nidra. She must bring 4 more birds, a pair of teirim, a pair of bnei yaina, right, one of each type, l'nidra, to cover her nether, her vow, her donation. Plus, like we said before, she had linked it with the eilas chayva. So she must bring that one again on occasion of this neder that's going to be brought today. V'shtayim lo chayvas, and 2 more birds, one of type A, one of type B for the eilas chayva, to come together with the nadava. And here comes the catch, v'chatas achas, and 1 more bird for a chatas. And she can decide which type she wants. Why? Because this shita, the Tanakama holds that if in fact the chatas became puzzle, the chatas determines what type. So when an isha brings a pair of birds as a chayva, she can't mix them, right? She can't say, okay, one type A, one type B. One pair has got to be the same pair, same type. But what determines which type is meant to be brought? The chatas. Within that pair, the chatas determines, how it establishes, commits to the type. Whatever type the chatas was, the oila must be the same type. So even if the chatas became possible, well, now that she's rebringing chatas, be it type A or type B, that determines the type of birds that she will have to bring her obligatory pair of. Right? So all you need to do is 1 chatas, and that becomes her type. And she's bringing the eilas chayva as well. In fact, she's bringing 2, we said. 1 of each type. So either way, she's covered. Right? So whatever type the chatas is, the corresponding oila bird of that type becomes her pair. But no, he says 1 chatas is not enough. He holds, and actually chatas doesn't run the show. The first one of the pack that's processed, whatever type that was, that triggers the chatas as well. You have to bring the same type of chatas. So it's not the chatas that runs the show, it's the first one. So in our situation, there's a chance that the chatas became puzzled back on Sunday. But perhaps the Eilah was fine. So now she's committed to bring a makeup chatas of that type. A type of the corresponding to the successful Eilah. Since we don't know what type that was, because the whole thing was confused and mixed. So she has to bring 2 more chatas. One of each type. Okay, so let's just recap briefly. With an Isha giving birth. Okay. A Yoledis brings a pair of birds. One chatas, one Eilah. Eilah is upstairs, chatas goes downstairs. She went the extra mile. She promised another pair of nedava, consisting of 2 Eilah, both meant to be processed on the upper part of the Mizbeach. She gave it to the Kohen, and he should have known better than mixing things up. He did 2 upstairs, 2 downstairs. He forgot to ask and forgot to confirm the purpose of this donation, of this pack, and identity of the karbanis within. 2 up, 2 down means that one Eilah became puzzle, right? Because it should have been 3 up and 1 down. So the Eilah becomes puzzle. She has to rebring that. Next case, if on Sunday 1 pair was type A, 1 pair type B, we're not sure which one was first, which would be considered the chayva, which one's second, which is considered the nedava, one of which is puzzle and has to be redone. In order to cover that, she would have to bring 2 more birds to make up for the missing Eilah, 1 type A, 1 type B. Now, case 3, she had initially promised a certain type, and she can't recall what. So now she has to bring 1 bird to make up for the missing Sunday bird of that type, and then 2 more of the other type, which perhaps were her chiyuv to begin with, on account of the neder. Case 4. On Sunday she brought 2 pairs, 1 type A, 1 type B. So now she's totally confused. She has to restart the clock. The chayva is taken care of, but the nedava would require her to bring 4 birds. 2 Eilah of type A, 2 Eilah of type B. What if she linked? I'm bringing my donation together with the Eilah as chayva. In addition to these 4, she has to rebring the Eilah as chayva, assuming she knows which type it was. But if she doesn't know which type it was, she has to bring both types. For a total of 6 birds. What if she gave it all to the Kohen on Sunday, not sure what happened and what he did? Perhaps even messed up the chatas. Bring the chatas as well. But now it says both chatas, 2 different types. Because perhaps the Eilah was successful, since it could have been of either type. That triggers a chatas of that corresponding type. We're not sure. Got to bring both types. I'm going to be sure. Oh, here comes Rabbi Shua. He says, look, interesting thing. Here's one chiyuv, a simple obligation, which turned into a multitude. It grew by leaps and bounds beyond her imagination. Beyond the initial 4 birds, here come another 7, 8. Zeo she'amru. It's similar to what they say about a ram. When he's alive, he just makes a meh, makes a little sound. But when he's processed after death, they turn him into 7 different instruments. Makes a rocket. Kishu chayu, during his lifetime, kol echad. He produces a simple, single sound. Kshu meis, and once he dies, they turn him into an orchestra. Kol yeshiva, he emits 7 different sounds. And the Mishnah there explains, actually, how do you get to 7? 2 horns that turn into 2 trumpets, 2 thighs into 2 flutes. Shaikav is his legs, his bone, whatever. The oiroi, the skin, turns into like a drum. Meyav, his large intestines turn into a navel or a wind instrument. B'nei Meyav, the small intestine, he turn into a kinar, harps, strings of a harp. So one sound turns into 7. Likewise, this one simple donation now turned into a whole shipload of birds. So clearly it's Rabbi Shua speaking. So now the question is, why are we disqualifying the oila that was processed downstairs? It should turn into a chatas and be counted as a chatas. Says the Gemara, Eimod Rabbi Yeshua. It's all true that Rabbi Yeshua says that in a certain respect we treat the oila process like a chatas, Lafuka mit me'ila with respect to losing me'ila status, like a chatas. Yeah. That far. But only that far. Since when did he consider it a properly processed oila and to be treated like a proper chatas, to count as a chatas? Nobody suggested that. Of course, it's possible. It was a limited point that it assumes a chatas status with respect to me'ila. It becomes me'ila free like a chatas, but of course, it doesn't count as a kosher korban. And if you encounter this type of confusion, you have to redo it, rebring it, to make up for the lost korban. Okay, so in a nutshell, we have an oila bird done downstairs like a chatas. Rabbi Lezer says it's possible and has me'ila like any other. Rabbi Yeshua says it's somewhat relabeled like a chatas with respect to me'ila free status. All the best to you and atzlacha.